It just took YouTube a minute to communicate. All right. So we are live now. I do want to go ahead and give a few moments just because I know people are going to be hopping over from Facebook and still joining on YouTube. But before we begin, welcome everybody. My name is Cheyenne Raquel Farley, and I coordinate the education and community programs for Academia Theater Company. And this is our final community care or community action program for our current production of My Red Hand, My Black Hand. It's been a phenomenal experience working with the long list of talented people that have been involved both on Academia's side as well as Soul Rep's side. And I'm just so honored and lucky to be able to work with such wonderful people. So before we begin, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge and recognize the Native people whose ancestral lands are where Academia and Soul Rep Theater produce their theater, as well as where this audio play was predominantly recorded. We wish to acknowledge the land of the Kickapoo, Tawakoni, Wichita, and Caddo people, which is now called Dallas. Comanches and Kiowa have also lived in this region, although it is not often recognized as homeland. We acknowledge that Dallas is stolen land and was built by stolen labor. The audio production, as well as this mini concert that you will be watching tonight, honors the experiences and cultures of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, that we call for unity and solidarity of all of our people in making a better world, which today seems like we might be taking one step in the right direction. So welcome everybody. And I do want to go ahead and highlight real quick before we begin, those who will be joining tonight. We will have 3 musicians that will represent the 3 musical styles that are weaved into the audio production of My Red Hand, My Black Hand, which you all do have one more day to purchase tickets for and listen to. It is a phenomenal piece. I've listened to it multiple times. I could keep listening to it over and over and over again and still wouldn't be tired of it. So tonight we will be featuring Indigenous and African-American music styles. We will have Ed Littlefield, who will represent the Tlingit, Native American music, Jackie Bird, who will represent Lakota, and then Ndambi Blue, who will be doing blues music, along with Frederick, who actually was our music director for My Red Hand, My Black Hand, and also some band members who I will introduce a little bit further once we get to that section of the concert. So I do want to go ahead and we'll dive a little bit further into Ed Littlefield, who will be starting this evening. Ed's native name is Shikindus, who I'm pretty sure I'm not quite saying that right, but he's a freelance percussionist, educator, and composer, and has performed in many ensembles of different genres internationally, including the Dallas Brass, Juxta Percussion, and the Native Jazz Quartet. He does have a couple shows that are upcoming, which I will let him just talk about a little bit more once we get to the interview portion after his set, but he's doing the Tlingit Christmas Carol, which sounds super fun, and then the Spirit of the Valley, which he's doing the full sound design for. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share with you all some music from Ed Littlefield.
Shakindus to Yuchat Chak na Hatsati Kagwantan Ayachat Uknachadi Yadi Hatsati Kagwantan Dachhunk Kuk Hit Ayachat Sheet Kakwank Dakna Hatsati. Hello, my name is Ed Littlefield and Shakindus too. I was born and raised in Sitka, Alaska, home of the Tlingit people. The songs I'm going to share with you today, I learned as a young person, and growing up, I was able to work with a man named Charlie Joseph, who was also known as the Songbox. And he was a member of my clan, an elder of my clan. And so I was able to go to his house and listen to him sing these songs. And to give you a little idea about what these songs are, they are called Dlegu or Dleguk, and they are children's songs. And a long time ago, hundreds and hundreds, thousands of years ago, they were used to kind of lull children to sleep. Now, as we go on with the introduction of Western culture, Charlie Joseph Kotlet felt that it was the songs were being lost, and so when he noticed this and realized this that they were going to be gone, he started modifying some of the songs with respect to help the young people learn these songs. And these songs are all in public domain, so they're not owned by any particular clan. And so what we do is we introduce them as who taught them to us. So Charlie Joseph taught it to myself. Now, a long time ago, like I said, there was no drum beat. Obviously, you didn't want to sleep, have a baby sleep to a nice big drum beat. But what he did is he said, I'm going to take these songs, and the first song is Chatlucha Shadki. And instead of having this nice Chatlucha Shadki, Chatlucha Shadki, he actually added a drum. And this is a traditional drum of Southeast Alaska. It's called a traveling drum, and it's made out of deer skin. We've got sea otter on the back, and so you've got a drummer and a drumstick, gao and gao gotla. And so what he did is he started adding this drum beat. Chatlucha Shadki, Chatlucha Shadki, Kaudlicha, Hedesas, Yekushitla, Yekushitla, Duquatli Kadach Aya, He, Ina, He, Ina. So his students were all able to dance to the songs and sing them on a regular basis. I'm doing a little bit of the same thing with what I do with these reimaginings of or reinterpretations of these songs. And I do so with utmost respect to the culture and where it came from. So I had a project that I do with the Native Jazz Quartet, and I do Tlingit melodies in jazz. Since it's just me today, we're just going to have my drum set. And something like this came out of this project that I've been working on for a number of years. This is called Chatlucha Shadki. The lyrics mean a finch or finches are falling, or a flock of finches are flying overhead. Their feathers are falling on a woman named Yekushitla. So this is how I hope my music and my words are to you, is that they fall lightly on you. Chatlucha Shadki. Chatlucha Shadki, Kaudlicha, Hedesas, Yekushitla, Duquatli Kadach Aya, He, Ina, Chatlucha Shadki, Kaudlicha, Hedesas, Yekushitla, Duquatli Kadach Aya, He, Ina. Chatlucha shadki, kaudlicha edesas, yekushitla du khatli kadach aya he, hi ina. Chatlucha shadki, kaudlicha edesas, yekushitla du khatli kadach aya he, hi ina. So that was my drum set jazz version of Chatlucha Shadki. And as you could hear, the drum melody and all were the same. All I did was add some different rhythm or some jazz rhythms. The next song I want to share with you is called The Hook Song, and it was actually composed by Clara Paradovich's grandmother from Klawak. And she gave it out for use in the 1940s, at the ANB-ANS convention, which is the Alaska Native Brotherhood and Alaska Native Sisterhood, which helped fight for civil rights as early as the 20s in the state of Alaska. And so she shared this song, and the hook song is really fun, and it's known all across Southeast Alaska and other parts of the state as well. But the words are, "Oh, what a fine halibut hook that is. What fine twine is on it. I'll put it in the water." And so what I like to do is think about this is that I'm putting my hook in the water for you, and I hope you'll join me in my musical celebration. And this was actually my first arrangement or reimagination of Tlingit song. I was sitting talking with some friends, and they said, "You need to do this. You need to combine your drums, your jazz drums, and this." I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And then about a day later, I had a dream where I was sitting on the drum set, and I had my drum, and I sang this song. Okshe weduki hawk iya aha, anach hawatana iya aha, okshe akatzitki iya aha, aha aha aya. And I kept singing that over and over again. And all of a sudden I put my drum down and I picked up my drumsticks. And then I started playing this groove, which is actually an Afro-Cuban 12/8 groove. And it just seemed to really fit. So I'm going to share with you my arrangement of the hook song. Weduki hawk iya aha, anach hawatana iya aha, okshe akatsi iya aha, aha aha aya. Okshe weduki hawk iya aha, anach hawatana iya aha, okshe akatsi iya aha, aha aha aya. weduki hau ia aha anach awatana ia aha akshe akatsiki ia aha 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 aya akshe weduki hau ia aha anach awatana ia aha akshe akatsiki ia aha 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 aya. The last song I'm going to share with you is actually a song composed by Charlie Joseph, Katletk. And the lyrics are really funny. And these songs are supposed to teach a lesson or just tell a story. The Tlingit people shared their knowledge through story. And everyone was required to learn these stories and learn these songs, learn the clan songs. And this song actually was composed by Charlie. And it sounds a little like something like this. Adu sik sawe ya yinach yan dayan wasayati we kushitlacha agwa ge ach sik sawe ho awe and that song, the direct translation is, whose little girl is that packing something up the hill? What is that chubby little girl up to? Is that my daughter? That's her. That's her. And I was fortunate enough to know Charlie Joseph until he passed in the early 90s. Late 80s, sorry, 89. And I know the person that this song was written about, and her name is Ethel McKinnon Dastia, and she is one of the great treasures of Sitka, both language and culture, and just passing on the knowledge. And so every time I sing the song for her, she claps and says, "That's my song, that's my song." And she's 89 years old herself now. And she's been a treasure. So the last song I'd like to share with you is called Adu Sik Sowe, composed by Katletk, Charlie Joseph. Adu sik sawe ya yinach yan diyan wasayati we kushitlacha agwa ge ach sik sawe ho awe adu sik sawe ya yinach yan dayan wasayati we kushitlacha agwa ge ach sik awe hu awe so Yai nach yan de yan wasayati we kushitlacha agwa ge achsik so hu awe adu sik so Yai nach yan de yan wasayati we kushitlacha agwa ge achsik so ho awe Kunach kunalchish. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much for sharing that. For those of you who are just now joining us, that was music by Ed Littlefield, who is representing the Tlingit music for our mini concert, inspired by the music from My Red Hand, My Black Hand. So we are going to shift over to a short interview and Q&A with Ed Littlefield himself. So if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask him, or any comments, or even just compliments that you want to send over, please leave those in the comments on Facebook or on YouTube, and hopefully we will get them over here in time. And I do want to go ahead and quickly mention before we begin this interview, because I forgot to do so in my intro, that this concert tonight was made possible by the Dallas Office of Arts and Culture, as well as the Culture of Value micro grant. So without the Office of Cultures, we would not be here tonight. So I just want to say a huge thank you to all of the wonderful people that allow artists to be at work right now during a time where we know that artists are one of the #1 people suffering right now. So without further ado, let's get back into the fun here and talking a little bit about music. So I do want to first say I'm highly impressed. As a musician myself, I have no sense of rhythm. It has always been the opposite of a strength for me, the biggest weakness I've ever had. So anytime I see like a drum solo, especially like a jazz musician, I get so excited because I'm like, whoa, they're doing all these crazy things and they know exactly what beat they're on, where I could just sing like the Star Spangled Banner and not know what beat I'm on. So thank you so much for sharing that. So I first just want to check in. I know that you're coming from Alaska, which thank you so much for broadcasting out in Alaska. So what part of Alaska are you coming from right now?
Well, honestly, I'm right now I'm in Seattle, but I usually split my time from Sitka, Alaska. So Sitka is in southeast Alaska. It's about 90 miles southwest of Juneau, the capital. But right now I'm in Seattle, Washington.
Okay. I recently was up there. My dad lives in Oregon, so I passed through there for a bit.
It's close by, yeah.
Would love to spend more time, but I was there during the spring or summer, so probably better weather. But again, thank you so much. That's one of the qualities I find to be one of the best things about the pandemic, is we're able to engage with people that maybe otherwise we wouldn't be engaging with. So the first question I'm going to ask is actually not one of my own, but one that we've gotten sent over. And the question is, your feel is sublime. How do you prepare mentally and even physically before you play?
Wow, that's well, kunalchish. That's thank you in Tlingit. Mentally, I mean, these songs were meant to tell stories. You know, these Tlingit music is based on an oral tradition. So there was no writing until 1972 or so. There was no orthography, and so the way that knowledge and wisdom and all this stuff, songs and dance and everything, ways of life were transmitted were through storytelling and songs, and repetition over and over again. So I guess, to kind of get into to answer your question a little bit, I mean, I have to think about the meaning of the songs, and sometimes when I don't mean to downplay this other part of this, but when I'm playing other songs like jazz standards or things like that, I don't have that same feeling as if I'm saying, all right, there's a flock of finches flying over her head and their feathers are falling on this woman named Yekushitla. What does that mean to me? What is that, what does this music mean to someone else? And so in Tlingit culture, there's a lot of respect given to everyone. No matter who you are, it's like that's what you do. And so when I prepare, is I really have to think about the story and the story meeting the songs that I'm telling. That's one thing. Normal drummer stuff, do some single strokes and just kind of warm up as well. But and I guess I kind of subconsciously do that while I'm warming up on the drums, just kind of playing and kind of thinking about telling our story, because I think the most powerful thing that we can do as human beings is tell our story, and that's really important. So
Thank you. I think that perfectly leads into my next question, which
I
is
did that on purpose.
good. Um, so my question is, what do you find to be some difficulties that you face as a Native American in the music industry?
Uh, okay, that's a loaded question. How do we answer that? Yeah, I have this fear of being, not fear, I just have this worry of being typecast or like set up to be the one native or indigenous person, native person on in a group or like in a production or something like that. I tend to not do that because, or try not to make that bother me, but sometimes it does, and because they're like, oh, we need a native perspective. Great, I love that, and ask me to do stuff, but remember that that voice is an important voice, and so I sometimes, not often, the people I work with are phenomenal people, so like it's great, and they hire me for a reason. But something I worry about is just to be hired for who I am, not what I do. And so what I do is bring Tlingit music, like kind of a twist to contemporary Tlingit music, and it is based steeply and deeply into the traditions and cultures of Tlingit people. So I guess making sure that it's the music that we use and share is being used appropriately is a really big concern for me. I don't share other people's music, other cultures' music. I have to ask permission to use other cultures' music. That's what it should be, and that's another form of respect. And so, I guess in the music world, it's been pretty fine for me because I enjoy. I work with this group called the Native Jazz Quartet, and we did a tour for the State Department in South America for a month, and it was amazing. So we have Ruel Lubag. Shout out to Ruel if he's watching. He was Filipino American, so his parents were immigrants. I'm Alaska Native. Christian Fabian out of New York is a German Sweden, but he's an American citizen for the last 25 years. And then we got Jason Marsalis, who's African American from New Orleans. And one person down in South America they were like, you're like the best group because you're everybody's voice is as important as everyone's else. So we've got Filipino tunes, we got Tlingit songs, we got Christian's great uncle wrote a song that we do, and then Jason brings some of the New Orleans music too. So I just really find strongly, like, if you're a human being, listen to what they say and and use it appropriately. I hope that answers that question.
Definitely. I know that a lot of people of color face tokenism a lot. And I love this mix and melding here. So we do have a question that I want to acknowledge. And I will kind of formulate it into like my last question here as well, which is like, what similarities do you see in traditional like Native American music on your side compared to jazz? And like, what influences do you take from jazz and meld it into something new?
Well, I'm gonna start with Jason. When we were on tour, Jason and I were just chatting about this because he didn't know anything. We hired him for a recording session that we did here in Seattle. This was 10 years ago, and he's like, "Okay, some guy from Seattle is calling me," and so he brought up there, and he did not know what we were doing, what I was doing, and but he played the heck out of the vibes. He was playing the vibes on our group, and with our group, and so he goes there, and then like the album released, and then about 6 months later we did a tour, and it was like the third day on tour. He goes, "Hey, Ed, I got what you're talking about. These are both folk musics, and folk music can be joined with any other folk music because it is music of the people. And so if you are a person that plays a music, it can go with jazz because it is a folk music of the people." And I find that that's like a really connecting part versus differences. So that's a big similarity. Jazz is from the people, and so is Tlingit music. Try to answer this other part of the question is like because Tlingit music, I've came up with a definition in the Western musical theory, but most music that I have studied and listened to in Tlingit music is either major or minor pentatonic. Of course, there are different rules to that, but there's also these chromatic passing tones which you can't like qualify unless you have a different notation, and so. What's cool about it is that it does sort of stay in that major minor pentatonic though, and so like on the hook song, the first note, da 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 da, it's that's easy, right? So instead of having that on the record, that first note was actually the major seventh instead of the root. So so mi do mi so. Anyway, so you can connect that because it has that structure already, and with any rule, it's meant to be broken. So it's kind of open-ended. But again, I'm not sure I answered that question, but there you go.
That's okay. That's all right. Quickly, do you have any jazz influences or anybody that you are influenced by that you just want to shout out quickly before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Blakey fan. His story growing up, just working his tail off and working in steel foundries, and then practicing drums, then playing gigs at night, it's amazing to me the amount of dedication he had to playing the drums. Tlingit composer, or not Tlingit, native artists that I'm really fond of are Don Pullen, the Eagle Staff. Has Landed, I think is what it's called. I gotta remember, but Don Pullen did a record with a Montana tribe. It was amazing. Also, Jim Pepper's a good guy, and I work with a handful of really great people here in Seattle. Shout out to the band Kuik, which is they're 3 or 4 Tlingit people playing funk music in the style of like funkadelic and etc. So that's kind of just all kinds of styles, everything.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking time and sharing that amazing video with phenomenal drumming in there. So we are going to shift over.
Gonna cheesh.
Thank you. We're going to shift over to our blues side tonight, which will feature vocalist Ndambi Blue, who some of you may have heard her voice in the audio production of My Red Hand, My Black Hand, which again, you have one more day to listen to. She played the mother. And then also in this, we will have a band backing her that was directed by Frederick Sanders, who is on piano. And other musicians that we will have is Eric Hitt on bass, Elijah Thomas on drums, Chris Green on guitar, and Quamon Fowler, I hope I am saying that right, on tenor saxophone. So I do want to go ahead and play this video for you all. This is our blues portion. Please enjoy.
Nothing leaves nothing, and nothing's what I have with you. refrain with bitter and cold because of you. We do these things, sometimes we do. And if bitter be cold as morning dew, thank you for morning days anew. This weather for you changes. To bitter, bitter blue. night. I got my man, he got his money, and we got our friend. Ooh, baby, if you're alright, then I'm alright. Ooh, baby, I'm alright. You're alright. Ooh.
All right. Beautiful job, beautiful. I do quickly want to, for anybody who is joining us, that was music that was by Ndambi Blue, who is a Dallas-based vocalist, got her start as a background singer for Miss Erica Badu, Booker T grad as well out there. Ndambi is now a independent artist doing her own thing, making it happen. And also, for those of you who do not know, played the mother in My Red Hand, My Black Hand. She also, I just found out this tonight, was the writer of Hair Love, which won an Oscar. I'm sure plenty of you have seen it. So that is her. That is her. She is a multi-talented person and beautiful, beautiful voice. Also, music and band organized by Frederick Sanders, who played a I cannot talk. Integral, is that the correct word? Role in My Red Hand, My Black Hand as well, mixing that audio and having doing a phenomenal job with that, as well as organizing this music too. Frederick, I know you have a couple things coming up, including a concert on the 12th at the Kauai Gallery in North Dallas, which will be live streamed as well. So if you like what you heard, maybe join again and you'll be able to hear a little bit more. As well as, it'll be music with gospel, jazz, and blues composers and different elements in that. So,
yes, exactly.
All right, so I'll begin the interview portion of this. I do have a couple questions that have been sent over, but I do first want to ask you all, what was your experience like doing this compared to the music that you did for My Red Hand, My Black Hand specifically?
I guess I'll go first. I think that one of the things about doing this performance was we were doing more material that was relative to blues, but maybe more personal, because some of the songs that we did, one of the songs we wrote while we were working on My Red Hand, My Black Hand. And then the other songs were songs that I hadn't written before. And Frederick so masterfully arranged them, and we performed those as well. So they're kind of extensions of the expression, because we were performing blues and indigenous music in the play, and this was an opportunity to kind of do what happens in between the blues, which is the gospel, blues, jazz fusion mix. And I don't want to overstep. Frederick, is there anything you might want to add to
And
that?
I think can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
we can.
I think you've stated it very well. Ed made a statement earlier in his interview about folk music uh, being accessible to all other folk music, and it's real. Um, one of the first times I went to Japan, we were playing uh, a lot of jazz music. I was living in New Orleans at the time, and we played some melodies that were real close to some of their indigenous music, and they began to sing their original song. And then that original song reminded me of something my grandmother used to sing to me. And at that point, that's when I went on this huge journey of just learning to pay attention to cultural music and how it affects people around the world. And we're much closer than we realize, guys. And I gotta get this in. Ed was so skillful with being able to present uh, the music that he studied from his culture with some of the jazz elements, and he played this one Max Roach thing verbatim with his hands, and I was like, man, that is Max Roach with his indigenous approach too. So it was really great. For me, meeting Ndambe on this last project with Red Hen, Black Hen, it was really great because I had heard wonderful things about her before, but I had never worked with her. And to see the personality she has and how open she was to first our preparation for the play was very huge. So we had to learn a lot of music and do a lot of listening and a lot of studying, but it was great. But the difference between that and this concert tonight, we were very intentional not to over personalize the music that we composed, that we were learning about the cultures. So we wanted to make sure we honored each people group at the highest level. Even with writing the score, I didn't go away from what I had developed. I called it the heartbeat. There was these certain pulses that even Ed played it today in his concert with the drum, those pulses and those beats. So when we came into the studio for this concert, Ndambe was able to open up and express more of her personality with all the new learning that we have done. So thank you everyone for this opportunity to continue to grow.
Thank you. So my next question is for Ndambe. Is it Ndambe or Ndambe? I hope I've been saying
Ndambe.
Good. Okay. Your music crosses so many genres. Yeah. Is it special to play blues like this, or does it feel like coming back to your musical root?
Blues feels like coming to back to my musical roots. I grew up in gospel, so blues is just the sister cousin to it, and so there's not much far from it. So this was home for me to be in a setting to express myself in a blues because it's all familiar. So honored to be able to do that. Yeah.
Thank you. I totally understand that feeling of kind of getting to come home. So my next question is, I know that we've talked a little bit about how we see similarities in like this folk music and this music that comes from certain cultures and these ties that kind of link us together. What similarities, I know that you all both kind of were able to not so much study, but be exposed to Native American music. Like what similarities do you find in that music that you also see in blues or in jazz or music that's more, sorry, I'm reading, music that's maybe more from your traditional background?
One of the things I think, coming from the traditional background, is all the hymns that I grew up listening to, and listening to the indigenous music. There are a lot of feelings that remind me of hymns. And then also in the dance that they do, it's almost like when a person in my culture catches the spirit and they do the dance. So all of that is so familiar and is so connected. So there were the differences, but there were the connections, and they were so close. So that was one of the things that I really got to learn as I listened to the music and learned more about the culture. So that was very, very wonderful to see how connected things are. You know what I mean? And yes, that's what I thought. Frederick, do you
Oh,
have anything to add?
yeah. I think the statement, I would say what I've learned from this whole process is it's a beautiful thing to see. I guess I could call it the uh, unapologetic earthiness that happens in uh, both cultures. I mean, the indigenous and our our black heritage, where people didn't apologize for the amount of knowledge or not that they had, but the intentionality to express themselves from a strong spiritual standpoint. You know, their mind, their will, and their emotions were, which I, for me personally, I define that as your soul uh, being totally in sync and intentionally being present. I think that's a big thing, especially in education right now, teaching our young students, no matter what background they come from, to develop a communication style that comes from a deeper place, the gut, um, instead of being so surface. Sometimes when we have a lot of access to knowledge, nothing really settles in, so we can stay kind of surface. So there's no surface intent in some of these expressions that we're feeling. So
Thank you. I also have been able to experience that some just on as a bystander more than an active participant. Being able to witness that has been really great. So last couple questions here. So last thing, any plans to tour virtually on the horizon?
of course, I don't know if the tour schedule is organized yet, but uh, I was told earlier today there's huge possibilities of dreaming big, and we're more than we imagine. So yes, yeah, uh, Ndambi.
Of course, I'm all for it. So, this has been a very insightful and learned experience for me because I've never done anything like it. So, uh, you know, I think that sometimes situations becomes the mother of an invention to create the opportunity. So, I'm all for it, and so where it leads us, I will follow.
So I just want to close out with just asking you all, how do you feel that the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the industry? And are there any positives that you found coming out of the pandemic?
For me, I think that what it did to change the industry is there was an opportunity to sit still. And so sometimes I felt like for me as a musician, there were parts of it that I thought I knew, because you get real comfortable in what you know. And so what the pandemic has done for me, it has allowed me to stretch and grow, to become a student again. I don't even know if I thought I was a teacher, but somehow I felt like I knew a lot. But now I've come to this place right now in this moment now, and I say, I don't really know. I mean, there's so much more that I could learn. And so this has been very uh, soothing to go into yourself and kind of do some self analysis to get to the other side of creativity. And I felt like I think that what the comfort was doing for me was getting me in a place where I was too comfortable and maybe even causing that place to block for a minute. So this right here has opened up a world of possibilities, and I'm grateful for it. I'm so super grateful. Frederick,
Yeah, for me also, it's pretty much the same. It's this reshaping, and it's all also confirming with the time alone in the solitude of it all. It's confirming that the gifts that we have are truly gifts, and there's not a lot of resource. I should say there's not a lot of reward for doing a lot of live concerts. So why do I practice? Well, I practice because it's in me to steward. It's something that I have to take care of. And being able to have those moments like when you get into your deep practicing and you're learning and you get really excited and you have to calm down because the cookies are not done yet. So it's been great to get that playful, not childish, but childlike learning again. Yeah. So.
Wonderful.
Oh, but I don't think I answered the question about the industry. How has that COVID affected the industry? There's a split. There's people who are totally terrified because they're waiting for the world that was to come back. And for those who have hope and passion and perspective, this is a great time to invent. So I'm really excited about these new endeavors. I'm doing some things and talking to people about things that were kind of on my mental shelf. They're like, oh, I wonder, that would be hip. Well, hip is here now. Let's make it happen. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Feel a lot of the same, really creative energy happening right now. Thank you both for joining us tonight and participating and sharing that video and phenomenal music there. I am going to move on to our next participant for the evening, who's Jackie Bird. And welcome, Jackie. You look wonderful.
Thank you.
Actually be performing live for us this evening, and we'll be closing out our concert. So again, thank you all who have joined us live on YouTube or have clicked on that link over there on Facebook and have hopped on over. Thank you so much for being here with us. Again, we are so thankful to the Dallas Office of Arts and Culture for allowing us to have this concert this evening. So I will go ahead and pass things over to Jackie Bird, who will be representing the Lakota side of our music this evening. If you would like to go ahead and introduce yourself and share what your music.
Haumitakiapi. My name is Jackie Bird from the Mandan Hidatsa tribes of North Dakota and also from the Dakota tribe of Sisseton, South Dakota. So I am a product of my parents. My mom is recognized in the Hall of Fame for her impressionistic artwork. And then my dad, he's in the Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, for his music. And we all live here in South Dakota. And I always extend a great big thank you. And I always start with this song. Honor song, and it was made by my grandpa on my Hirata side. And then at the very end, when I went, that's a high honor gesture. And I always love to sing traditional, and I always love to sing rock and roll and blues. My dad had a rock and roll band, so I couldn't help but to have instruments around the house all the time, even drums. I love to play drums, even the ukulele, but mainly the wind instrument to be vocal. And so I wanted to start with this song, and it's Indian blues. That's what I call it, Indian blues rock. Yeah, no more crying, no more crying, hiding my tears in the dark. Yeah, I'm trying, yeah, I'm trying. Now my world doesn't feel so sad. I'm crying, looking for you. I'm crying, looking for you. Chea, oh, Chile. Whenever I'm away from you, I always get these lovesick blues. Never ever leave me, and I will never leave you. So that's what I did, as I combined the traditional music, which we call them 49s, where there's vocables and lyrics, and they sound something like this. And we always make the heartbeat. We make the heartbeat, and then we add the music. I made this one. If that's a long time, there's no time to me. Even though you're far away, there's no distance to me. So I brought the rattle out, and that's what our people, we use the drum a lot. And what the drum does, it clears the atmosphere and it connects our hearts. And so we use the drum a lot. Or this, it could also shift stuck energy. These are all therapeutic. And also my eagle feathers, these are plumes. This brings your mind to the highest, like the Christ consciousness. It keeps your thoughts pure. So we want the sacred eagle in our mind, and then continue the healing. And so now more than ever, we have to rise our vibration and help heal each other and ourselves. So there's a huge awareness now to spiritual growth and creativity. And so that's where all of the artists, musicians, we all have to really help. And it was really neat to hear our Alaskan friend Ed, and then Ndambi. Oh my goodness. If I had a headache, it totally went away in a split second when I heard her. And I was in Australia, and I was able to perform with a lot of the Alaskans over there. I was there for World Peace and Prayer Day. some of the places I was performing at with my traditional regalia, and I'm a hoop dancer and sing native, is the Salt Lake Olympics, Winter Olympics with Robbie Robertson. And I was able to sing a solo, and that was really neat because there were 30,000 people all gathered there, and then it was aired world. So that was a super high honor, and to work with him too, and Rita Coolidge at the time. And so I get to see them every now and then. And what else did I do that was really neat? Mainly singing with the grandkids. I'm a grandmother of 7, and then of course I'm a mother of 4. How did I get the grandkids before the kids? But I also, just like Ed, when he was singing about a children's song with the percussions and the native tongue, I thought that was really a beautiful combination. And that's what I love to do too. That's the next thing I want to do, is I want to go into the schools, teaching them arts and crafts, because I make all these regalia. There's a lot of regalia that I make, and then I could show them how to do things like that. So and then to sing songs, of course. And then I want to start all over again and be a student, just like Ndambi said. So I'm going to go ahead and sing this prayer song. This is a beautiful song. It's a universal song, and I'll explain it in English and Dakota. I know it says Lakota, but it's Dakota with a D. I'm on the east side of the river, and then the Missouri and the Lakota are over there on the West River, way over there. Okay, here is the prayer song that I would like to offer to everybody. Thank you so much for including me tonight. Wakataka Oshamara Omakiayo Dakuwakan, that's something sacred like our spirit. It's pitiful. We are asking for help. Omakiayo, help me. Help me. So that's a beautiful song that I just wanted to share at this time to conclude the concert tonight that we had. Is there anything else you would like me to say, or you can ask me any questions, Cheyenne?
Yes. So we will move over to the interview portion for you.
Thank you.
Let me remove. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And I love your regalia and the fact that you've made it all yourself. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My first question that I have for you is, I know that you touched on it maybe a little bit, but what is the language that you are singing in?
That's in the Dakota or Lakota.
Okay.
Or otherwise known as the Sioux. There's so many bands of us.
So was music something, because I know that you had shared a video where you were singing with your sons or your grandsons. Was music always something that was passed down generationally for you?
Yes, definitely. My dad is a rock and roller, and he also sings traditional. And his first language was his Hiradza language. That's his first language. And then he learned to speak English in 8th grade. And then his grandpa was our dad, I should say, my grandpa. He was a composer at the drum, the big giant traditional drum. He composed a lot of beautiful music that still go on today. And then before him, my great grandpa was one of the chiefs over there. And his name is Crowflies High. And he was one of the chiefs over there in Fort Berthold. So through my dad's side, I have a strong line of music and composing music too. So I was definitely born to it.
So I know that you take some influences from rock and roll, and with your dad being a rock and roller too, which my dad was also definitely into rock and roll as well. So what influences do you take from rock and roll music, or who inspires you?
Well, definitely first my dad, and then Pat Benatar.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm so grateful for her. I'm an 80s girl, and I just loved her power. Like if you hear her singing, you're gonna feel it, and then you're gonna also recognize her within 2 or 3 seconds. As soon as she starts singing, you're gonna know who that is. So I always wanted to be something like that. So I always started my songs like I'm kind of taking it easy tonight, but otherwise I really belted out like yeah, like happy, like send your voice up into the angels or to the heavens, like instruments like that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Very rock and roll, but also keeping that culture and tradition behind it too. I love the intersection. There's a lot of different intersections here tonight. Are there any other music styles that you feel inspire or touch on your music some?
Yes, I do some ballads, and those are the songs that are to help wipe the tears when we lose loved ones, our encouragement songs like saying recognize the eagles in the sky. And I always sing a lot about grandma or daddy or mama and things. I always recognize them every time. I better make one about grandpa.
I love that. Thank you. So what do you find to be the best advice you were ever given as a Native American woman in music?
My dad was the best teacher, and he still is. He always said, because I wanted to always save the world, he said, the best thing you can do is set a good example. And he also said, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And so I never worked. I just love what I do and giving all that I am to inspire, especially through the arts. Because all the musicians and artists, we help lift the earth just even a little bit. We are helping to lift it, uplift it.
I agree. I agree. So I have just a couple more questions. I want to make sure that there's not any that have been sent. Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't ignoring anybody's questions from our social media accounts.
Okay.
So, what was I going to? I lost it. Oh, so do you? Same question I kind of had already asked Frederick and Ndambi as well. What ways has the pandemic impacted your music or changed them in negative ways or even in positive ways? What is
Yes.
in it for you?
Well, it really made me pray even more. Like I always thought I was a prayer warrior. Now it's even more because it's like I want to go on a 40-day fast, just having only living foods, real littles. That way you become spirit, and then you can get your insights, like what things can help, what can be remedies. And it made me seek more in depth into my paradise, which is in the inside, which is the whole universe. And so what I found is biscuit root, and that's we got to keep our immune systems up. And the voice, I listen to the Dalai Lama every morning, and him and a bunch of them, a lot of the Tibetan monks, they sang to this prime minister who was on his deathbed, and they went into his room, and somebody on a little handheld digital recorder recorded them singing, and it's about a 40-minute long chanting with a lot of om, and then it's so beautiful. And to this day, the prime minister is alive. So I know that music can heal. So it made me want to do more with music, because I've been doing a lot of sewing a lot. So that's why I want to do more music this time.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
inspired me. Sorry, the question was that the pandemic inspired me even more to rise even higher, like to do honor my purpose and calling more.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I definitely think that there's definitely a strong theme from artists that I've talked to both tonight and outside of this evening that have just felt a lot of like fire and inspiration lately, and like not necessarily throughout the entire pandemic, but in the past like few months. And I'm definitely feeling that from you and feeling that from some of our other musicians as well, and myself, just this energy lately to create more and more. So how would you describe your creative process and your songwriting process?
I always want to give a good message, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I always want to be cool. Okay, well, I mean, like, I always want to be legit. I want to make sure I honor, like, sometimes we have to keep things sacred, so we can't really expose that in our culture. But otherwise, I just want it to be free flowing, and I want it to touch the heart. My dad said, if you're going to make music for the heart, make it from the heart. So that's what I really want to do.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for being here with us tonight. So I am going to go ahead and close out the evening. I do want to welcome anybody who has had their videos turned off. If you would like to, you don't have to turn them back on. I know that Ed Littlefield has had to step away for another event that he had. But again, thank you all for joining us. Those of you who are on our social media accounts, have been watching over on YouTube Live, as well as the musicians who have been here with us tonight. It has been a pleasure to hear you all. It has been a pleasure to share this space with you and to hear a little bit about you all and about your music. So again, tonight we were joined by Jackie Bird, who is here with me now, who represented the Dakota music, and Ndambi Blue and Frederick Sanders, who represented blues music. And then we were also joined by Ed Littlefield, who represented Tlingit music from the Alaskan Native tribes. So thank you all again. And I do want to go ahead and just I guess end this live, but I will stay on the video for a little bit if anybody wants to say anything. Thank you, those of you out there on YouTube. Again, the music tonight was inspired by My Red Hand, My Black Hand by Dale Orlando Smith, which is still in production by Garamia Theater and Soul Rep Theaters. And has one more day where you can purchase tickets and hear this amazing, amazing audio play. So please, please do so if you have not yet. And again, thank you to the Dallas Office of Arts and Culture for this micro grant that has allowed this evening. So thank you all. Have a great evening.